A beginner's guide to darkest dungeon.
Let's preface this guide first of all. You will die, like a lot. This guide will hopefully help you out and maybe reduce your deaths, but people will die. There will be heart attacks and heartache, disease and crits. There is no other way. Embrace it. Embrace it, and it will make you stronger. That said, here's a quick guide of things you may not have known about Darkest Dungeon, and a few tips to help you out along the way. First off, quirks. Quirks can occur on your character during almost any part of the game. Generally speaking, it's not really worth the time and money to lock in the good quirks and get rid of the bad ones. Especially if you're just getting into the game. The only quirks I would recommend you get rid of are the ones that affect dungeon interactions. Curiosity, necrophilia, and plutomania are just a few of them. There are very few things as annoying as having 3 keys only to have your team open every locked cabinet. Quirks that affect your accuracy as well can be massive dangers and deserve to be purged as well. But ultimately, it's up to your discretion whether or not you want to get rid of them or keep them. So, moving on. Diseases. Much like quirks, let them ride unless they affect your accuracy. The treatment ward does offer opportunities to cure multiple diseases in one try, so I would recommend leveling it to that point before curing diseases. Plague doctors also have abilities to cure diseases when camping, so keep that in mind. The Blacksmith. Generally, I would level up weapons over armor every time. It not only increases your damage, but accuracy and base speed. When it's your turn, it's key that your attacks land, and a little extra damage as well. Well, no one's gonna complain about that, right? The Guild Hall. Generally, it's good to have your core 4 abilities that you use leveled up max, as much as possible. Getting all abilities on each character is not very useful, and generally a waste of money. Prioritize skills based on damage, heals, and general usage. If you can only level one ability up, level the one you tend to rely on, and not some cheesy buff that takes a turn to cast. The Church. Generally speaking, this is the safest way to relieve stress. That said, remove their trinkets before leaving to the next dungeon. Sometimes they do get charitable and give a trinket away. Nothing against those who are giving and generous, but seriously, why would you donate that moon ring? I so needed that moon ring. Anyways, thanks to VittyDubs110 for that heads up. The Stagecoach. If you have space and are not in desperate need for characters, always check the new recruits for quirks that you really don't want. Same goes with abilities. If you really don't like a particular set of abilities, you can always pass till you find another. And that said, if you're strapped for cash, feel free to take 4 level 0s out and grind them. Sure, you may get a few deaths, you might not even complete the mission, but if they can bring some money back, it'll help your cause. Trinkets. There's a lot of variety with trinkets, so feel free to play around and see what works and what doesn't with your particular team. Scouting trinkets, like the Ancestors map, can be a godsend helping you navigate around unnecessary fights, revealing traps, and reducing fights in which you are surprised. On the flip side, you can sell trinkets by holding Control-Shift and clicking on the trinket. Seriously, try it. No, it works, I know! You can thank me on my Twitch stream later. Alright, with selecting missions, I just want to warn you that level 3s won't do green missions, level 5s won't do orange missions, and so on and so forth. That said, if you are doing a long run or a boss fight, you might find them easier to do with the highest eligible characters, giving you the best potential stats for the mission. Enough about that anyways. Let's move on to buying supplies. Now just remember that this is a broad stroke buying guide, but it should definitely help for those curious about what they should bring to an area. So moving on to food. Always bring enough food for a feast plus 2 food checks, or 3 when you're doing a long mission. This means if you have 1 campfire and no one is 100% more food consumption, this means 8 food for the feast and 4 for the hunger checks, making it a grand total of 16 food items. Any extra can more than likely be used to heal oneself after fights, so you can pick up some more if you don't have a solid healer. Shovels. Always have at least 2 shovels. For medium runs in ruins and wield, grab 3. The Cove is a place all about shovels and medicine, so loading up onto 4 isn't a bad idea, especially if it's going to be a long run. Medicine. Primarily used in dungeon interactions to increase one's food and treasure. Useful in bosses as well if you're planning on using Hellions and Jester's big abilities with the debuffs that cast on themselves. I would focus on using them on dungeon interactions though, when you're going into the Cove and the Weald, and maybe just one or two in the Warrens, because the liquor barrels are so good. Not so much in the Ruins. Holy Water. Useful for shrines. The Ruins and the Warrens are great. The Cove, not so much. Anti-Venom. Extremely useful in the Weald. Keys. Can use one key at least in each area, but more would be recommended in the Ruins and the Weald. Bandages. The Weald uses them quite a bit, followed by the Warrens. You may have noticed that I haven't mentioned where to use these items. You can always Google the Darkest Dungeon wiki, but I feel like part of the game is just kind of exploring and figuring out what these items do and how they interact with each other. Such as maybe a torch with some books. Find out what happens. Anyways, we're moving on. It's time to go. So with this, I'm going to end the video with a quick look at a starting group that can take out the Necromancer, a difficult boss for first encounterers. He has 105 health, lots of AoE, and of course, keeps summoning those stupid skeletons in front of him. I would recommend you using level 2 characters when fighting the first boss, though in this footage you'll see that I've used a level 1 without trinkets and a few torches. So one of my many recommended groups you could use are, from left to right, Vestal, Plague Doctor, Hound Master, and Man-at-Arms. The Vestal should have Mace, Judgment, and both heals. Plague Doctor should have all his plagues and his stun. Hound Master should have Hound Rush, Hound's Harry, Target Whistle, and Blackjack, where Blackjack's just used to help you get to the final boss. Man-at-Arms, Crush, Rampart, and Retribution. You should, if you can, upgrade weapons and armor as much as possible. But if you are strapped for cash, just try to focus on getting those weapons upgraded. Try to keep enough torches to light the area up before going to the boss, just to make your life a little easier. But the goal here is when you get to the boss, take care of the skeletons as they appear, while with the Plague Doctor keep stacking blight on the main boss. Your Hound Master, after marking the Necromancer on the first round, eat your biscuit and focus all 3 rounds on Hounds rushing the Necromancer. The Man-at-Arms should focus on keeping up Retribution and taking out Skellies as they spawn, where the Vestal, as normal, constantly keeps healing the rest of the party so nobody dies. Hopefully.
Bones can fall. Even the dead can die again. Success so clearly in view. Or is it merely a trick of the light? The human mind, fragile, like a robin's egg.